All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We do have a full house tonight, and I'll tell you, I'm pretty excited to be able to speak again with Leo Zagami. And what we're going to do right now is we're going to introduce Mel, who was instrumental in getting Leo to come on this call and talk about his experience with the Freemason, the Illuminati, and I'm pretty excited to hear all this stuff too. So without further ado, we're going to bring on Mel to do a proper introduction for Leo.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for joining our call. Leo has been literally around the world. He's been traveling with the Monte Carlo Lodge. He is basically got the biggest connections within the Illuminati. And today he's going to be sharing with us what we all don't hear on the news. And I believe some of the information you're going to get is going to be absolutely mind-blowing. His credentials, I believe, speak for himself, but we don't want to take too much time away from him. At this point, I'd like to introduce Leo. Leo, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, and I'm glad to be here, your guest tonight. It's a great pleasure.
Very good, Leo. We're going to do a three-part series here, and then we're going to try and open it up for Q&A for everybody so that everybody has a chance at asking you a question. So you'll have to unmute yourself if you're muted by hitting, I believe, *6 again. And basically, Leo, let me ask you a question real quick. You're a 33rd degree Mason, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. What did you have to do to get to that point? I mean, what are some of the rituals you had to physically go through? What are the challenges to becoming a 33rd degree Mason?
Okay, I want to give you the most sincere answer possible, so you can make up your mind after on what is right or wrong, because obviously the subject that we are touching tonight is a very delicate subject, because we're talking here about the knowledge of the ancient mystery schools and how at times this knowledge has been abused by a limited amount of people from certain families because of the position that they have into the establishment. So the mystery schools are not all necessarily bad. In the great knowledge that is been handed through the millenniums, through the centuries, these mystery schools have also served at times a purpose for humanity and for the development of the technology that we now have. So, you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Yes. So it's important that we keep that in mind when we talk about the 33 degrees of the ancient and accepted Scottish rite of Freemasonry. Now, first of all, we have various rites in Freemasonry. Freemasonry is, first of all, an order of 3 degrees, which is Entered Apprentice, Fellow Craftsman, and then you have the Master Mason degree. Now, the second can also be called Companion or in the French way, or there is various denominations that can be adopted. But these kind of denominations are mostly connected to the tradition of Freemasonry. So the order has these 3 degrees that you are introduced, let's say, to the basis of what is the whole craft of Freemasonry. Then you have so in the rites you have further degrees up to 33 in the ancient and accepted Scottish rite, up to 90, 97, and 100 in the Memphis and Mizraim. The Egyptian rites go way up the ladder into the ancient knowledge of the mystery schools of old. And it's up to mankind to use this knowledge for good or for evil. And tendentially, unfortunately, the evil side has taken over the so-called Black Lodge. The so-called evil side has taken over the show by using usually this ancient knowledge just to implement their own goals and to further enslave humanity. So
Gotcha.
If we want to free ourselves, we don't necessarily have to criticize the whole of the system if the system actually is made of knowledge, of science. Now, the 33 degrees, apart from the rituals that are implemented within the various degrees. When you go up the ladder, not all the degrees are practiced, only certain degrees are practiced, others are only given on instruction, so they never get really practiced in a temple. But let's say that the key degrees, like the 18th degree, the Rose Croix degree, and you have the Knights Templar degree, the 30th degree, the Kadosh degree, then you go into the Prince of the Royal Seekers, the 32nd, to arrive to this Sovereign Grand Inspector General. I mean, the morals and dogmas of Albert Pike after close up the furniture of the system for what is the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite. But then you have also, as I said, other rites. You have the York Rite, which is basically a compendium of all the English-style rituals devised within the tradition of what became after the United Chronology of England. So the more rich side is practiced within the York Rite, which is more British, let's say, more English influence than obviously the Scottish Rite, which is Scottish influence. I mean, it's influenced by two types of Freemasonry. But then you have also the Memphis and Muslim Egyptian Rite, which is born within more of a Napoleonic background, connected directly to the Illuminati, because Napoleon himself was a member of the Illuminati. So are these Illuminati all evil? No, not necessarily. The problem is that during the course of time, the order, which has obviously, we know it as the Illuminati, but the Illuminati is many different groups that belong to one close circle of illuminated beings, and that is the supreme body, which is the Invisible College of the Rose Cross. The Invisible College, the Council of 12 extended to the 13th element, which is yet to come, which is supposed to be the Messiah, is the closing of these circles of illuminating beings, masters that materialize on this dimension, this specific moment of time, for the great events of 2012, starting from June 2012 into the Christos, and then after developing into December 2012, with the great revelation and the great ritual which is planned amongst the few elites of the Illuminati to represent below what is above, which is a constant rule of the Freemasons and obviously of the Illuminati. The Illuminati are corrupt, but sides of the Illuminati that are good are trying to fight the ones that are corrupt. It's a difficult struggle, especially within the fact also that people have the perception that obviously the Illuminati are only the dark Illuminati, the ones that belong to Beesha, which is indeed the dark Illuminati, from Jesuit tradition, from the Alumbrados tradition, but there is also the Rosicrucian Illuminati, which belong to a different side, which had a struggle from the beginning with their counterparts that obviously were starting to be corrupted by certain arts where it was specifically studied, especially in Germany, in Austria, and obviously these specific arts were coming from the East and also from the Middle East. So the arts of certain kinds of magic, of alchemy, but brought only in a certain way to deal with demons, becomes then the way in which a lot of Illuminati families became enslaved by their worship of the divinities, of these gods that they were giving their life to, which we can call demons, jinns, gods, call them however you want. They are these entities. Then obviously you can call them also UFOs if you want to get back into the modern contemporary vision of them. But they have always existed they have always been amongst us in the universe, different elements coming from different dimensions. This is not really something that, in the light of the science that will be developed after 2012, will be regarded as very incredible, because the evolutions in front of us, when it comes down to the science of the mind and to the development of this matrix of minds that are now finally in unison, because the machine is being activated, which is the internet, is able to trace each one of us in our daily activities means that the big brother is watching you in every phase of your life. Now, the important thing is to know who this big brother is and if this big brother is acting legally or illegally. If this big brother is a Satanist, doing obscure rituals of obviously demonic origin, which we can't accept, because if the dark side is guiding now the powerful in this adventure, which is resulting in an economic suicide for the world, well, this is because it has been prophesied, and so you have to also enter the realms of the prophecies. And so also the discussion of these 33 degrees, in which slowly the candidate gets instructed in various arts and gets instructed in reading certain books. For example, if you are in the 4th degree, you are introduced to yoga and to also at the same time the orthodoxy of Freemasonry, the symbology of Freemasonry, and you are introduced to the occult sciences. So you're not anymore the Mason you were before within the order, you are starting to become a magician. In the 9th degree, the development and the philosophy of the degree is the triumph of truth through the courage and the obedience. So the 9th degree, which is this elected knight, is a very important degree in which you get to study the golden, basically what is defined by Steiner as the mystic Christianity, and obviously Steiner becomes also a matter of reference for Freemasonry in those degrees, but also books like the Rama Shakaraka, which is a philosophy of yoga, and you have the books like the Vesm, Metterlink. You have certain degrees that you study very much because they introduce you to the secrets of tantric yoga, to the secrets of death, to the spiritual problems, and to the great silence of receiving such knowledge, usually in a very respectful way. That's why these degrees are divided, because when you enter in contact with the divine matter, as the Freemason knows, he puts the gloves. So he knows that he's dealing with the sacred. So the people outside of the lodge should not watch necessarily with a bad eye towards Freemasonry if it's done in the correct way. Obviously, if Freemasonry becomes, like nowadays, only a means of making money, of implementing the New World Order, only under the usual suspects, which are from the usual families, well, we find ourselves definitely enslaved by a system which is not working correctly. And so I think that certain Freemasons that are closer to my ideas think otherwise, we can act otherwise, but others want to implement the New World Order in the most brutal fashion possible. Now it's up to the people to realize as quick as possible the fact that all this is going towards a catastrophe, but also towards a great transformation in which after, obviously, we will ascend to a higher plane of knowledge for everybody, to the end of ignorance towards the science of God, and so there will not be any space anymore for the traditional religions that have been transmitted up until now, because each one of them has been manipulated by mankind during the course of time and only serves the purpose of the political and economic powers behind them that use them and abuse them for their own purpose. So the matter of religion stays as a private matter between me and God until I find something in front of me that demonstrates me otherwise. And obviously this has to be the main thing in our teaching as true Illuminati, is that Jesus wants ultimately for mankind to understand that there is a metaphysical kingdom, and that metaphysical kingdom is the kingdom of God. And that metaphysical kingdom, the moment you, in 2012, have finally the technology to then, manifest enormous things, you have also the responsibility that goes with it, which is to give this technology in the hands of responsible individuals. So the big brother that implements itself in 2012 can be either a negative one or a positive one, if by positive we intend that at least the person demonstrates that his integrity is there by divine will. And at that point, we will be at least safe.
Gotcha.
You understand?
Let me ask you another question, Leo, as soon as you're done. Are you done with that?
Sure.
One of the questions that I believe is really important, do you feel that Obama may turn on the Illuminati, meaning the bad ones, and instead of running an agenda that's for the bad Illuminati, running an agenda that's good for America? And if so, how many attempts do you think there'll be on his life?
I really want people to understand that Obama has been put there for a specific purpose, and the people who have put him there, they're very powerful people within the Illuminati establishment. So I don't think that at the moment Obama has nothing to fear, if not some theater that is put his way. But, I don't see at the moment Obama having the same risk as Kennedy, because Obama is a member of the Council of Foreign Relations, working under the Trilateral Commission, which is run by the usual suspects, Israel, Great Britain, and the USA, together with the usual families, which include the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the whole crew. So the thing is that we have to understand also the influence enormous of these people, especially because they have backed up a campaign that has cost a lot of money. I mean, Barack Obama, to win the election, has definitely done a great job also at influencing the media, but he has been put there for a specific purpose, which is to give hope to America. Now, America needs hope desperately in this moment of time. Will you get what really you are asking for? Well, that's a different matter, because unfortunately the crisis is about to further, and it's going to further the day after Obama is put in office, because up until then they can keep this fear together. But after that, the economy is going to fall into pieces even further, and at that point the problem is going to be the biggest challenge for Obama, and probably possibly for an American president, since, I don't know, I mean, this has not really happened many times in the American history to be in front of such dilemmas and such problems of big magnitude like this. I think that is the main problem, really, is to see if Obama is tenacious, is strong-minded, if he can really take the pressure, and if at the same time, if he doesn't do the mistake that will eventually carry him to his grave if he decides to go against what's put him there. But I don't think that will happen. I think that Obama can do his job. I hope that the Americans don't get too scared, but definitely the moment when he gets put into office, at that point you're going to have to see the sad reality in front of you, and that there is, unfortunately, no hope. And that is because the hope, if it relies on this false charade around us of the usual politicians run by the usual families of suspects, it is a charade. This is theater. We're going to send these people all home in 2012. They're going to all be kicked out of office, all of them. That is how it's going to work. And I tell you this because in 2012, we're going to be standing in front of a real revolution of the people. And then what you're going to do? You have to put somebody there that really knows how to front a situation that no other president in history has ever been fronting. So it's up to Obama to show to the people in the next 4 years if he wants to be that president. Otherwise, there will be somebody else. But, I think that the show is set here. I mean, Obama is the man that has to give hope in a moment in which America is literally falling into pieces, and the rest of the world follows up, including Europe, Asia, and all the rest. But Asia obviously has more stronger points, and that's why the main investors go to China. China is rising up. China is becoming a danger. But at the same time, we have other dangers in the equation, and that is India. So destabilize India. They have done it.
Gotcha.
So
another question that comes to mind. Do you think Obama will be manipulated and forced to go into a World War III situation? And if so, will they manipulate Israel to start with Iran first?
Absolutely. We are going towards a great show. We are going towards a great show that will magnetize the people of all the world. But the result of this show, well, only God knows, because I don't think that anybody honestly can say what will happen after the next 4 years. What we know is that definitely things will stop being this way, and that we have to work together in order to survive and implement a system that can bring us to the next level. The next level, Carmen and all the other listeners we have tonight, is a level whereby what you now see only a glimpse of, which is the UFO, the military, the X-File, that is something that is leading towards the truth. But when this truth is going to be finally revealed, then we're going to have only science. God is going to be science because it's a scientific thing. It's demonstrated scientifically. Then do we need the Jew, the Christian, the Muslim to say that that is God? No, that is simply God. It's science. All the religions are part of it because they have all been created by divine messages of the divine will. But now we are in 2008 and we have to follow, obviously, the teachings, because if there has to be really a coming back of the Spirit of Jesus in a second coming scenario, then at that point it has to be genuine. Otherwise you will have more false prophets, false messiahs of all kinds, and obviously this is happening. So it's a great danger. This is the danger of the end of times. And obviously we have people playing the part, great actors of the play like Obama, a great magnetic animal who knows how to grasp the attention of millions and captivate the mass. This is mind control at its best. This is what American culture within the intelligence field has developed for the last 50, 60, and also including all the stuff they got from Germans. They got a lot of stuff from the Germans. Then they have a technology of the mind that goes back 100 years. It's definitely then part of the Illuminati culture and establishment. So it's obvious that all this mind control activity at the end can only be linked to a central headquarters of people who are capable of understanding what is happening around us. And that's what they're keeping from us, to get the full picture, Carmine. And at that point, when we have the full picture in front of us, like we are trying to define tonight with me being here, then it's more clear for the people that we are surrounded by the enemy. We are actually surrounded in everything we do every day. And it's very difficult at a point, if we don't really take a stand, to survive the next stage, which is the microchipping. And then after the microchipping, you lose the freedom completely, you give yourself to the machine, and you become just part of the matrix full on. That's it. Finito. So, if you want to really be in that matrix, then you have to have on top of the chain people that are sages, that are totally spiritually pure, because at that point, when you're entering this kind of reality, you're entering the metaphysical kingdom. So the secret societies of old are all ready for the ultimate takeover in 2012 and the establishment of a system that, if taken by the wrong people, would mean a total catastrophe. And obviously, in this Armageddon scenarios, you can imagine what will happen.
Right. If Israel attacks Iran, do you feel Russia, China, and some of the other Arab nations will engage the U.S.? And if so, will Americans see war and bombs fall on our soil?
You had the wars and rumors of wars, man. have to get ready for them. This is a very serious battle because on top of this system is no ordinary people. If you think that the wars of the next few years for the oil, the gas, for all the reserves, is only moved by mankind, well, you are not on the right track.
Correct, right. Do you feel that they are going to bypass ushering in the Amero, which there's been a lot of talk about, and go straight for the one world currency based on our economic situation globally?
One world currency. You see, the one world currency needs to be established for these people because we will not have soon only digital currency. Now, digital currency is necessarily universal, so it's only one currency.
Got you.
That's it, my friends. You want to be practical, you want to be honest about it. We can't not have the internet and then think that we can still go around with a dollar, with a euro, with this and that. The concept at the end is who takes control of this global currency and with what ethics, what morals. We don't have to wait anymore if there is a New World Order and we have to fight it. No, the New World Order has already been implemented. It exists, it runs, it goes, it's unstoppable. The only possibility we have is to regain control of it as people like our forefathers before us, especially the Americans, did when they took on board the fact that they wanted to become independent from Great Britain. But these days, America is still loyal to Great Britain in the same ways it was always because it's subject to a trilateral pact that involves the Vatican, England, and obviously Moscow is only involved because of the great power they had already in the communist era, and this power is being transmitted to us now, but those people behind closed doors have always been very religious, not communist at all, so like us. That is what people don't understand the Soviet Union. When they see the Soviet Union, they see only the atheistic propaganda of the external. You see? Now, obviously, the Soviet Union is not there anymore, but we still, everybody must have heard of the fact that many Russians who came out of Soviet Union times are atheists. They don't believe in God. While things have immediately changed after the fall of the Berlin Wall, and now the Orthodox Church has regained power. They are making deals with the Vatican, and basically everybody is enslaved by these supreme manipulators of the religious field, which is the one that manipulates more minds and mind control people than anyone else.
Well, basically what you're saying is that religion is nothing than mostly man-made, man-manipulated, and big business.
It's big business. Absolutely, it's the biggest business. If you think that these governments are deciding for themselves, you are on the wrong path. Full stop. Because these governments are made of men. These men have received knighthoods. These knighthoods are obliged to the people who give them. You are obliged to the people who give this knighthood. Who gives this knighthood? At the end, everything is centralized and it goes down to those patriarchs, those cardinals, the Pope, the Holy Show. Everything is subject to what they reckon to be divine will. The problem is that these people think that they can implement the New World Order and they are actually capable of doing it and violating completely the freedom of the people and the relation with God. They implement instead this New World Order without any kind of true belief in itself. Only a group of religious leaders who are corrupt, and instead of really doing spiritual things, they end up doing geopolitical affairs for their own country, and this is all manipulated by the Vatican and by the Knesset in Jerusalem. So, here we have people that go back 2,000 years. And 2,000 years ago we had a man who rebelled at the time, and said that what they were doing in that temple was wrong. Fundamentally, they had to bring the truth out if they wanted to really regain the attention of the people and also convert not only the Jews, but extend this conversion to all the people of this planet. So we are in a moment of time in which instead these manipulators that have always existed on this planet continue to manipulate this planet, and in closed doors, they're not really worshipping God, but they're worshipping gods, so they are pagan. They're not really being honest with the people who are they're preaching out to. They're pagan, and they're not really only pagan. They are trying to worship those demonic entities that give them that power and that we can use within the places like the Bohemian Grove or Skull and Bones, or these are places in which the rituals become a form of abomination, which is not present within Freemasonry. It's present within rites of Freemasonry, certain rites, when they are misinterpreted and when they are too occultistic or too demonic, because connected necessarily after with those secret societies which are necessary. Well, they are satanic, they're part of the demonic realm. You have also the evil side, and the evil side has unfortunately taken over the show in this moment of time. But we hope that in the years ahead, we realize what we have in front of us, and we try to change things. Just wake up, from our state of sleep and become aware and conscious, because suddenly our pockets are getting empty and more empty every day, and we understand that the system has something that is definitely going, is not right, is wrong, but they're being honest with you. They're not telling you that the banking system is built in a way that basically is depending from a bunch of people who have created the Federal Reserve, or in Europe, the Central European Bank. These people are families. They print money. They run the states.
Got you.
So the moment in which we create digital currency, that is the biggest challenge. And that's why then very well that the digital currency can only be in the hands of one holding, and they are working to try to take control of it. And obviously, who is trying to take control of it? The usual suspects, working on either plans to implement this whole show and to benefit that person, which is obviously an antichrist figure, is a demonic figure if we want. And that figure needs to be redeemed. That figure who is going to come up in the next few years more and more strong is probably a very dangerous figure, and it's coming out of the usual family, in the usual bloodlines. Probably is yet still too young to come out officially, but let the David Rockefeller of the situation, let the Kissinger, let the other ones go down, the new ones will come up. And the new ones are actually, at this moment of time, realizing that obviously the metaphysical kingdom and what is going to happen in 2012 is maybe so challenging that it requires from their side a more genuine approach. But still, I tell you, a lot of these people are only thinking, we want to take control of the New World Order, we have the name, this is our family, we're going to take control of the universal currency, and that's it. So, obviously, if this is the case, we find in front of us somebody who wants to control the whole planet. Now, this person that wants to control the whole planet, this is a very dangerous subject in this case, because this guy is in control of our own pockets, all of us. The moment in which the economy falls apart and they're able to establish a one-world government, digital and universal currency, then we have to absolutely be sure that this is done in a way that satisfies all the nations of the earth, because it's not possible that this kind of power is in the hands of only one person, one family, because otherwise this person should be the Messiah. But this person is not the Messiah, because somebody that comes up from the usual families of suspects and to propose something like this is not a Messiah. So who is he? Is he a servant of Lucifer? Servant of the old gods? Obviously. These people are working, following this kind of path, because their own families have been there for centuries doing the same thing, and they think that ultimately they can take control of the whole planet, digitally speaking, and that's it. They have caught us in a digital prison. So that's why we have to be careful not to become slaves of this digital prison, and we have to be able to reclaim the power and to give that power to people who are truly illuminated and gifted by God, who are ready to say to the evil side, we will challenge you, we have to have a say in this. It's not possible that all this power will go in the hands of a person that could damage very much humanity. So we have to look at it in a very careful and attentive way.
Gotcha.
We are in front of a situation which has not happened before in history. In 2012, we're going towards the digitalization of the whole system called planet Earth.
Well, I think it's true. I think that even if the world's population rebelled against all governments, it would be equivalent to me trying to fight, an F-22 with a slingshot. It's going to be impossible to even attempt such a feat. So what do you think? What do you suggest we do? One of the things I know for sure, and I know the inside government, people on the inside government that are leaking that information to very, very reliable people who have had cosmic clearance, which is the highest form of clearance, have basically leaked out that the United States government and the British government, the Australian government, the Italian government know that, for example, Nibiru is coming. They have tried to depopulate the world's population for a long time and have not been successful. Even though they have chemtrails, SARS, all kinds of diseases out there, there's still the world population is growing something like by 300,000 a day. So they still have a very serious problem on their hand. One of the main reasons is not because we don't have space on our planet, obviously. It's because we're running out of resources, water and oxygen being two of them. So what do you suggest we do as a people? Where do we head for higher ground? Do we dig a tunnel? What do we do in order to survive?
I think, first of all, we have to create movements that are able to dialogue with the enemy and make them understand directly that, you are aware of this and that you are not going to be taken into this, that you are an independent mind. You restate your idea of American freedom fighter. You are an American freedom fighter and you stay an American freedom fighter. Whoever is there trying to implement a one-world government structure upon the United States needs to be called an enemy, because the United States is an independent and sovereign body within all the nations of the earth that needs to stay independent. It can't be drawn within this without the people rebelling and then reclaiming the state, because America in all this has the dominant role. America is the leading nation in the end of times. This is a messianic legacy that America has to accomplish, and then to accomplish this mission and lead the other nations of the earth, America needs to understand, first of all, who is the enemy. And if the enemy is within, then you have to kick them out of office. And that's it, You can't keep on having an establishment of politicians who are subservient to all the corporates, the Saudis, the Jewish bankers, whatever people in all these Illuminati lobbies, which are there just to destroy the American state. And then, at that point, once it's completely on their knees, American state is, at that point, declared the enemy. They wage war against the United States, and that's it. You are then at a point, a very difficult point, With all the nations of the earth, they have put in that position. Why? Because there is people within the U.S. who are not working for the U.S., people that say they're working for the U.S., but they have sold their soul to some Saudi king. And they have not only sold to the Saudi king, they have sold the soul to the Russian mafiosi, they have sold the soul to the Korean mafiosi, they have sold the soil and all their nation to foreign investors who are capitalizing on America. But America, the moment they pull out the money, falls into pieces. And they know that. They know that. The Illuminati, who manipulate all these governments and states who are on top of all this, they know how to then go and invest their money somewhere else and keep on profiting with various buy-sell programs and other things which are done in the trading houses above the range of the average man. So when you do that kind of activity, you're going to keep on capitalizing and making profit even in the worst days of the market. Because you see, on top, there is systems which are so powerful where money can be made at all times. So the American people need to wake up and think, okay, somebody here is cashing in, somebody here is really selling our nation to what? To a foreign invasion? I mean, obviously, America is nowadays having increasing problems, and it's going to have even more problems with immigrants coming in, and even more problems that will be difficult to tackle in a growing crisis. That would be a big problem for the American people, and obviously that problem would be a big problem for all the immigrants. Well, that probably will destabilize the whole situation because they're not safe anymore themselves in their economy who is dying. So they start resorting to crime. At the same time, there is full control by the Illuminati of the gangs through certain lodges, through certain kinds of Freemasonry. Everything is controlled in the land of the Big Brother. So everything is controlled in a way that the people are more and more scared and more enslaved by the strategy of tension that is working behind their backs and all around them at all times. This strategy which manifested with terrorism, the strategy that manifested with 9/11 is now maybe going old-fashioned, or Bin Laden doesn't scare anyone anymore. The economy scares more. So the economy becomes the strategy of tension that wipes all our attention off only on one thing, because at the end of the day, we have to pay our bills, and obviously we all feel the pressure at this point. You know, it's not only some war happening somewhere else. It's happening in our pockets every day. So we are starting to realize that this system is not working anymore. And what is the solution then? Hope. What hope? For what? If the system continues as it is continuing nowadays, it will continue enriching the few and enslaving the many. Only for us to understand this and to understand also that if America needs to survive, then people who made this America the nation it is have to reclaim the right to put in the White House somebody that can be, objectively speaking, distant from the foreign relation, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderberg, the Bohemian Grove, the Skull and Bone, this and that. No, somebody who has to say, I'm in this house, the master of the house, because the President of the United States is not somebody working for some other puppet master behind the scenes. Obama will survive if he goes against his puppet master, but obviously if he does something like that, only at that point, you will see him killed.
Well, yes and no, because you have to understand, Obama has his trigger on the most powerful, still the most powerful army in the world, without question. And if he got the elite of the Army Rangers, the Navy SEALs, whatever, the toughest people in our armed forces, to surround himself with the most powerful firepower.
It's not a question of him surrounding himself with. The question comes from within his own establishment.
So you're saying somebody from within will kill him?
If you see, it never happened. Like in the case of Kennedy, it's all created, orchestrated for for both the Kennedys. I mean, this is a creation that after, implements yet more strategy of tension on the viewer. We are talking about the real picture here, the picture of where I come from. As you know, Carmen is the inside picture, so sometimes for people it's difficult to understand what I'm saying because they don't understand where I'm coming from. So I will reiterate the fact that I have been within these lodges when certain decisions were made, and obviously we are seeing the results of it, putting Gordon Brown, putting Obama, creating with Obama the alliance with Hillary. It was something I already mentioned last 1 year ago. Nobody would have imagined 1 year ago that. And why did I say it? People should think about that because it's all a setup. Now, if you still believe in politics in the year 2008, I would really think that, you have to be joking because politics doesn't have a place in the future of humanity when we are going towards the perfection of the system, which is a digital system and can be used for the good or for the bad, but definitely doesn't have space for lies, politics, propaganda, and rubbish.
Right.
We should be free of all this. We should be able
I
to
totally agree. Totally agree. Will we see a collapse of the Federal Reserve? Will we see a collapse of the IRS? Do you think that we will see that during the Obama administration?
You see, the Federal Reserve, it's, like I said before in other interviews, going through a profound, problematic struggle that will result with an inevitable falling apart of this reserve created by a bunch of people in Jekyll Island from the usual families for the usual purpose. I mean, the moment in which they want to get to the United States to literally fall apart because that's it, they have it with it, boom. At that point, they can get the Federal Reserve to completely crash. If they decide to keep the United States together because they will keep on doing business, keep it together. I mean, Federal Reserve is a privately owned company. It's not of the American people. It's owned by the usual suspects, by the usual families.
One of the things that I think that the economic collapse might not happen as bad as everybody thinks is because you have to understand the United States of America is the biggest domino in the world arena. So when we fall, we take countries like China right down with us. We take countries like Japan, Australia. We pretty much control the world economy right from here. So if we allow this economy to collapse, we're actually making the whole entire world slip into a global depression, a major global depression.
We are going towards a major global depression. Just wait and see when Obama comes in power effectively on the 20th of January, the day after, what will happen? We're going towards a global depression that, the one in 1929 will be viewed as peanuts. This is going to be the biggest depression. And it's going to bring you with this depression, unfortunately, one of the most difficult moments in the American history. But it's only the beginning because it gets even worse.
Interesting. One question a friend of mine here, Jim Myers, has, does the higher echelon, like the Vatican and the people in our government here in the U.S., already know who this Antichrist is?
Yes.
They do. All right. The reason why they won't kill him, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is because they're looking for ways to depopulate the planet, and they're not going to stop any sort of genocide or Nibiru coming towards us, causing major catastrophes and floods and whatnot. Correct?
Let's make it clear that the families in charge of the situation are in contact with certain groups of genes, of entities, called species of aliens, or how you want to define them, who work directly with them on a plan. So if the strategy is to give then this person global control, that can only happen after a global collapse of the system. So you see the struggle definitely will be of major proportions, but still the upper level of the pyramid is completely together in this. Now the struggle at the upper level of the pyramid is the interesting struggle in all this that we have discussed tonight, Because at the upper level of the pyramid, on the contrary of what people might think, there is not a complete unison approach at the moment. And they will need 4 years, to really get this thing, like this, the struggle on the top is just getting the situation to become even worse. Because obviously at the top there is the dark side really taking over the show, and that is accepted by everybody in the councils. So the Supreme Council of the whole show, the Supreme College of Illuminated beings that preside over the Illuminati themselves, are not yet completely agreeing on the whole picture, because they're trying, to avoid taking their own responsibilities. But these responsibilities are unavoidable because they themselves have made deals with these entities. And so they know that they have to implement the New World Order for this Antichrist, and they're forced to do so because this Antichrist requires the maximum of obedience towards it.
Gotcha. I'm going to have one more question for you, which is a 2-part question, and then at that point I'm going to turn the floor over to Sheila Mallet and Linda. Here's a very important question. Do you have any friends in the higher-ups of the Illuminati that have contact with alien beings on a regular basis? And if so, have any of them told you or admitted to you that they've been off-world, basically have traveled to other planets? Yes or no?
I had definitely contact with many of my Illuminati brethren, if you want to call them brethren. But you see, even if I came out of the picture and started this exposure and really are struggling in an internal battle against people that used to be my friends, some of them are still on my side. But these people, I must say, that are within this whole enclave of the Illuminati, many of them have continuous experiences because they work with these entities. They start maybe seeing the first, you will call it spaceship, or this round being of light, or whatever, when they're maybe very young, 4, 6 years old, to then carry on with these experiences and formulate with these entities a deal. So the Illuminati are actually born Illuminati. They are carried from birth into their reality, which is definitely very different from the reality of a normal man in the outside world. I can make you an example. The Illuminati being, or the Illuminati man who becomes in charge of these orders, is already working at them at the tender age of 5 to 10. At 10 years old, he's capable already of entering the Rose Cross. At 15, he's already into a whole establishment of magicians at very high level who deal with entities. So they are capable, and I have been part of it, so I myself am part of this structure, because, yes, I can leave the body that represents the negative side, but I can never leave the fact that I have belonged to an invisible college of masters who are there doing a specific job which no other people can do, because they work in another way. We have, including myself, not only experiences with the beings that you call the aliens, UFOs, however you want to define them, but we work with them on a regular basis. So it puts us on a different condition because we know who they are by name. We know who they are, in what kind of kingdom they operate, in what kind of reality they operate, because they operate in other dimensions, in kingdoms, though, where there is a rule, where there is a king, where there is a structure, even a justice structure. We can't think about these entities as ignorant. These entities are beings that are at another level, different. Obviously, humans have been made by God for a specific purpose, and they are different from angels, demons, or any other entity. But these entities have a high level of technology. Technology is often handed down to us, so we are capable of then implementing this technology. And this technology becomes implemented first within the circles of the intelligence field, in the military circle first, obviously, but then they come out slowly and they manifest in the commercial realm, and they become the everyday life use we all do with all the things we have in front of us every day of a growing technology which is coming from somewhere. Well, obviously it's coming from somewhere, but who is behind those entities? If we think that God doesn't exist in all this, well, you're very wrong, because these entities have already the knowledge of the science of God. They are entities that belong to a higher level of conscious respect to us, because they know where is their place in the universe is very clear for them, both for the negative ones, for the angelic ones, for the ones also who work with us the positive way, because they have accepted to work on the light side, not on the dark side. But obviously we have the demonic realm, which is very strong, which can promise certain families wealth, which can promise certain religious establishment the fact they can control many people. These rituals that we hear about are only to manifest these entities and be able to dialogue with them and to work with them.
Got you.
So
I'm actually going to hand it over to Jackie instead of Sheila. I believe Sheila will probably go last. One last question. Have you personally had any experience with alien groups at all?
myself,
Yes.
Absolutely, yes. In 1993, when I did the magic of Abramelin the Mage, I started having one of the strongest, probably, experiences in my life regarding having the presence of this kind of beings at a very close range, being in this temple where I was working, and obviously starting to interact with me. This experience is part of the work which is done within the close circles of Illuminati to adjust yourself and be able to communicate with the beings, and understand also that between those beings there is also those liars that work for the evil side. So you have to first learn each of their names, each of their figures, to then understand the side below, the demonic side, and to rise above to the angelic side. We have to have a full perspective of who these entities are. And so if you go and study within the realms of the esoteric science of the occult, you will find those names, those entities, those beings. You will learn more. You will understand that really, at the end of the day, a lot of times I have criticized the UFO phenomena because of the ignorance of the deeper aspect of it. Because some of it is obviously just the technology that comes out of the various experiments done by the government, instructed by the jinns. But we have also the manifestations of the entities themselves and of their own, obviously, realm. The moment in which they decide to take somebody, to abduct somebody, is the moment in which they bring them in their own realm. Now, you never hear of abductions, for example, in the Middle East. And why is that, or in the Far East? Because those abductions are, since time immemorial, something that happens and that they relate to the dreams, to the spirits, to the world that has always been there. And that is part, obviously, also of the millenary religions, which are all born out of contact with these beings. Call them the Elohim. Call them in other ways, but obviously you have a positive side, and you have a negative side to it. And if you do it with the ignorant eye, definitely the alien phenomena is a little bit diminishing of what it really is. Because when you put compare these entities and make them look like Hermes, well, we have to be very careful of doing that. Because these entities are nothing, but, there are no way, Hermes, these are very dangerous, very, very dangerous. When you're dealing with this kind of entities, you should have the knowledge of what you're doing, and you should understand that they are, demons or angels are at another level with respect to us. these entities, these manifestations from other parts of the universe that come to visit us here on Earth, they are very dangerous. And if you have to deal with them, you have to have knowledge. Like the ancient Indians had knowledge. The ancient Indians living in America before the white man arrived, they had knowledge. And that's why, for example, you have in certain localities nowadays the Jesuits, like at Mount Graham, and you have them there trying to grasp the possibility of not only communicating with these entities, but interacting and working with them so they can, use them to completely control mankind and enslave them. But obviously it's not the man that is ever controlling these entities. These are the entities that in reality are ultimately controlling the man. Because the moment in which man is interacting with these kind of entities, you have no control absolutely over, over what you're doing anymore. These entities are very powerful. So we hope that they are good entities, light, beings of light. But to be in contact with beings of light, you yourself have to be purified spiritually. You have to go through a purification. So what is the elite trying to do these days in this moment of time all over the world? They're trying to see if it's possible to purify the spirit and to be able to restore this planet in time for the New World Order being the kingdom of God, not the New World Order of Rockefeller. But, if it becomes the New World Order of Rockefeller and his descendants, whatever, and it's a world in which we have a limited number of people who are obviously in charge of the end of times, because the moment in which we have this kind of prophecy coming into being, you know exactly what will happen, and obviously the result would be Armageddon. There is no other way.
Do you feel that there will be plenty of survivors where the world will start over, or do you think it's going to be completely lights out?
No, I think we have to be positive, but at the same time I know that in the calculations made by the Illuminati, 3/4 of the world should be wiped out.
3/4 of the world?
3/4.
Yeah. Well, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Jackie. Jackie, are you there?
I am here, yes.
Okay, this has been
Thanks,
one amazing call. I tell you, one of the reasons why I want to make contact with the aliens is because I understand some of them can walk through walls. I want them to walk through a wall at the bank and give me some cash. Is that possible?
Well, I think that they control our banks already, meaning that those people who control our banks are really the people who are working within this system. Now, as I said, there is good people and bad people. There is good spirits and bad spirits. There is a war, a confrontation. Call it a confrontation of angel and demons. It's definitely something that we will have to learn to live with and also to become participants if we don't want to become enslaved by it.
Absolutely. Jackie, go ahead, take it over, and then we're going to open it up for questions and answers, if Sheila has some questions as well.
Yes, all right, thank you.
Sheila will open it up.
All right. Thank you, Mel. And Leo, thank you. I know it's very early in the morning for you, about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, isn't it?
Yes, it's 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, that's what I thought. Okay, in line with, it brought up a question that Mel had just asked. It goes right in line with what you were just answering. Is there a safe place that we could go to or, fly to or go and move to in the world?
This is a question that many times I had circulating at higher levels of the Illuminati when I used to be in charge of the Monte Carlo Lodge. Unfortunately, there is no such place. The world is a very small place these days, and there is no safe haven if not only there are, mankind has the possibility, obviously, of creating disasters, we know that. But if the wrath of God intervenes in all this, there's no place you can hide. You can only hope that you will be amongst those survivors that will help reestablishing this planet. But during the course of the period after 2012, we will see wars of such proportions and a struggle that will define what will come next, which is the kingdom of God. So there will be the rebirth of figures that we are not used to anymore. Like in the period from 4 years from now, we will see the rise of figures within society that will be not the ones that we can imagine these days. Because in 4 years from now, the figures that will rise will have probably a major responsibility in their hands. And if they start waging war against each other for survival, it's going to be a struggle of warlords. And it's going to be definitely a scenario of apocalyptic proportions. But it's for that reason that we can't just say, okay, we can go on the other side of the ocean and things are better. No, unfortunately, we don't have this possibility. Things are going to be better on this side of the Atlantic, where I'm now, in Europe, in Rome at the moment, in your side of the Atlantic. So things are going to be bad. Worldwide, there is no possibility. War will mean that you have limited connections at some point between countries. So you will be stuck in the USA if you are in the USA. If you are in Europe, you're stuck in Europe. There is going to be, at one point, difficulties in the communication, probably because certain nations will start, like America is already doing, going back into internal, protecting the internal situation, which is also falling apart. So obviously it's a very big struggle ahead. It's not something that people will be happy to see, but they will have to at least go towards this moment of our history with hope, but the real hope, not the hope of a president that says hope but after doesn't act in that way. We have to have a real hope, and for that reason it's going to be only God can say what will happen after 2012. All these imminent catastrophes obviously means, a war is catastrophe, always, because it means the loss of many lives. And obviously if these wars are done for resources, because it's true what Mel said earlier on, we are really ending our resources. And so at the end of the day, it's obvious that we will have at one point a breaking point, which we will have the collapse of the structure and a subsequent war between the nations. But we have to be a little bit more intelligent this time and understand that this is not happening by chance. We will have to have a better understanding of occult history, of the history behind the history. So not the official history, but the real history, which is made for centuries and centuries and millenniums in these secret societies, ancient mystery schools. And we will have to understand and grasp those mysteries and use them to our advantage and say, okay, I understand now where we're coming from. Can we save the whole show? That would be something that we will really try, we will have to try to do as soon as possible. Even amongst our own communities, bringing awareness, bringing the possibility for others to understand and to prepare. Prepare in their own communities, first of all, because you want to defend your dear ones, you want to defend your families, so it's a difficult, obviously the cities are very dangerous. It's advisable for people to move out of the cities, move towards communities, move towards the countryside. Don't stay into big cities. Big cities will be then divided in various sections. Some of the sections will be completely in the hands of criminals. There will be no way the forces will be allowed in there because they will be kept like prisons, open prisons. There will be a different structure within society coming up the moment in which you have martial law implemented at times. You will have obviously something that is for us now, in this moment of time, in 2008, very difficult to really fully understand. In 4 years from now, unfortunately, we will have to live in a very different reality and start to cope with a very, very, very different reality.
Oh, you said there's no safe place. Is some places safer than others? I mean, I know you just said move further, as far out as you can, away from the main cities. But is there any other places or any specific places besides moving out? Maybe
well, you can build bunkers. You can go underground. But this obviously can only be done in the hope that when you don't come outside, everything is contaminated if they start start sabotaging nuclear plants or things start to get out of control. The situation, you see, when you start not having any more food in supermarkets, bread on the plate, water to drink, and all the rest, it becomes definitely a big struggle. So we have to be ready to move outside of the cities if possible and create these places where we are sure that my community are safe from an environment which is increasingly hostile. If we will survive, that's only up to God, and you have to put yourself in the hands of God. But you have a better chance of surviving than staying within the cities that don't have anything to offer you regarding the food. Because when the food chain is broken and the food doesn't come in the supermarkets or in the shops, that's the moment in which you're getting hungry. And that's the moment in which you act in a way that you will not act when you're not hungry. Mm-hmm. So we have to really be ready to front a very difficult situation in crisis, one that has never happened before if this kind of thing happens. So we have to really bring awareness to people, bring part of the military, of the police, of the other establishments to be aware of certain things, certain issues, that it doesn't become a confrontation between the people and the state. It can't become a confrontation between the people and the state. It will be suicide, it will be just chaos and obviously, but the thing is that obviously there is interest of certain people to destroy the states. The moment in which the states don't make their own currency and don't reflect an interest of any kind, well, at that point the states can be also destroyed by a government that wants to implement themselves worldwide in the hands of a few that are also gun makers that are selling weapons and are making a lot of money out of wars and things like this. So we have to be very careful of how things are moving in these days around us, because the situation is getting increasingly dangerous. And the crime is increasing every day, so everybody can feel this, can feel threatened. But how we have to react? We have to react. We can't stay still. We have to form militias that are strong. We have to involve those people in the establishment who are honest and say, okay, can you protect us? Are you on the side, or are you on the side of the people who are behind the Federal Reserve, who is now falling into pieces and not being able to save our economy? The moment the Federal Reserve crashes, and there is a very high possibility that this sooner or later will happen, then we are ready for a second revolution. This is we have at that point really people messed up in their own daily lives, and then people ready for a revolution, because this is what is going to happen if the situation continues this way. One moment or the other, we're going to be triggering a revolution. Like Mel said before, though, going against the police, the army, the force is impossible for anybody, because it's like going against it. So we have to create, in a way, the knowledge, the awareness that these things are happening around us, even among the military forces, across the establishments that include the Navy, the Army, the Air Force, and bring people to the knowledge in those establishments that there is a minority that is perverting the course of justice, that is perverting the natural course of things, because to implement a new world order which is only in the hands of the usual family of a small minority who finally has the technology to implement this new world order, and obviously wants to establish the kingdom of the Antichrist, because only the kingdom of the Antichrist is what we have in front of us.
Well, I know we could go on with this line of questioning for a lot more longer, but I know I've got a couple more questions. Sheila has some too, and to honor your time frame also. Next question has several parts. how, I know you initially talked about the Illuminati in general, but how did you particularly get involved with the Illuminati, and what made you leave? I mean, you didn't just see an ad in the paper, recruiting for secret society, apply here.
No, these secret societies only follow a tradition which is a long hereditary tradition, a family tradition that goes through the centuries. There is elements of certain families who are granted the possibility to become high up in these hierarchies of secret societies of old, which are there to protect the whole establishment of the bloodlines and all these circles. So obviously there is certain bloodlines who have a special mission, and this is the beginning of time. But obviously God sometimes puts these families at test, and sometimes they have failed to comply to the test. And obviously what that means, that at the end we have corruption within those families, and even the family of certain prophets is corrupt. And what at the end that means? It means corruption means in the Illuminati means that everything ends up completely in chaos, and possibly only to implement later on a universal currency, a global government structure in the hands of one centralized Messiah, which is basically an antichrist, and that is what we want to do. It's not like these people have other ideas. They think that the common man is living in the dark, that the common man doesn't know what is happening, and most unfortunately don't, and so, they have the situation in their hands.
Now, how did you originally, though, get involved? I mean, and what made you leave, and how long ago did you leave it?
I joined on the 13th of April 1993. I was previously chosen. I went through, recruiting period in which I entered the Air Force in Italy first, then I entered certain groups close to the Opus Dei, the Secret Service. I was working for a specific politician in Italy, which is very important, Andreotti, and working my way because my grandfather was a senator. I come from a particular family, so I was already within those Illuminati families that can join these elite groups. The first group I joined was the group of Prince Alliata of Monreale, who had his own Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite recognized by the Supreme Council in Washington, D.C., and it was basically the only legitimate body of the Scottish Rite in Italy. But he was involved for many years with Gladio, this anti-communist operation issued by the American intelligence together with European intelligence forces, military and the rest, to implement a strategy in which there was no possibility for the communist governments to enter Europe, the side of Europe which was obviously NATO, which was obviously subject to the Atlantic Treaty. And so for that reason, the Illuminati kept a structure very separated between the good, which was represented obviously by the U.S., the Atlantic Treaty, and the whole NATO, and the evil side, which was instead represented by the Soviet Union, the evil communists, and the whole show. This is, as I said, a show, something that functions very well. Every now and then they will talk about nuclear weapons. People will get very scared, but everything will go regularly in their lives day to day, knowing that obviously the military capabilities were growing. There were more and more nuclear missiles built every day to front this terrible, confrontation with the Soviet enemy, and this went on until one day, obviously, the Soviet Union fall down. But obviously, before it falls down, America is clever enough to create a new enemy, because America needs always an enemy. And so Osama bin Laden, who was there in Afghanistan fighting against the Soviets, did his mission and managed to create this crisis, at least apparent, but obviously this crisis was also implemented with the corruption and with a deal that was made in the inner circle of the Russian establishment. So it was done in a way to liberate and to and the communist experiment in Russia, which was implemented originally by the Illuminati of the Adam Weishaupt lineage, loyal to the Spartacus tradition that became the Spartacus Society Fundament of Communism in Germany. And this is basically the way in which, through also the use of the Grand Orient of France, where initiated people like Lenin, Trotsky, and all the rest, and basically there was the possibility of creating the ultimate enemy, an experiment that went on until obviously one day the Russian elite decided that this is the end of the experiment, and we get corrupted like you by greed, by money, and by you want to live a nice life. So at this point, there is no point in going on with this experiment. It lasted long enough, but unfortunately, the end of an experiment creates a great crisis, because when it misses the enemy, which was there for a long time, gives work to so many agents, so many people that are involved in this Cold War structure, the day after everybody finds themselves without a job. Well, it's not easy then, no? So at that point they had to recreate new jobs, they had to recreate new enemies, they had to create the ultimate threat, starting from the end of the 70s, already with Carter, they gave birth to Islamic fundamentalism. If we think that Islamic fundamentalism was born in the matras, in the schools of the Muslims in the Middle East, you are very wrong, because the actual original texts that were created to inspire new fundamentalist beliefs comes from American universities and devised by people from the U.S. intelligence, who were able to then infiltrate and give this kind of reading in the madras, in the schools, formed these terrorists, thanks to people obviously like Osama bin Laden that worked for a long time with the CIA. This was possible. It was possible to implement the new strategy of tension. It's called Islamic fundamentalism. It works. When you have a problem, you just call Zarqawi. He answers. So the day after Obama was elected, the first thing they asked him, tell Obama he's a dirty nigger, and that was obviously said by Zarqawi, and that is completely theater, because a serious terrorist group of real Muslims would have never said something like this. If they wanted to attack Obama, there was a much more easier way to do it, following the Quranic law. They know very well that Obama is the son of a Muslim, that he was a Muslim, and that if he says no to the Muslim religion, he becomes an apostate, which is liable to death. This is by Quranic law. They didn't mention that. And why is that? Because it's a show made for the American public. Because if Obama was a real threat, then, it was a different thing. But Obama is a created threat. And Ahmadinejad, the whole scene in Iran, which is already changing, is another show for the masses, in which these people are completely, manipulating the information that goes through the airwaves, and for them believe, the great threat, the possible war, this and that. These are at the moment only ways of taking the attention of people. But in the meantime, as I said, the real crisis further is becoming evident, which is the economic crisis. And even if they use still the Islamic fundamentalists in all their geopolitical wars, they have done it, as I said, recently in India. They needed to do that in India, and this moment they did it, And obviously who's responsible? They have to be the usual people that they put there for, destabilizing the situation. So people are talking again about terrorism, great threats, this and that, But it's all well orchestrated and totally organized and arranged. So we are the victims of a scheme. We are the victims of a farce recited on a global scale by a bunch of incompetent intelligence agencies. We shouldn't be called intelligent because they are idiots. And anybody nowadays with a minimum of brain can go on the internet and finally, if they have really the awareness, realize that the situation is very different, and that not only 9/11 was a setup, but everything that came after and before was completely a setup. So we are the victims of a setup.
Absolutely, Leo. I think everybody on this call knows that it was a setup too. But one of the questions I have for you is, what made you leave the Illuminati?
You see, in 2006, I entered in 1993, but in 2003 already, after a period of time I spent in Egypt, I started to have problems with certain branches of the American Illuminati. Okay? But the branches of the American Illuminati were not yet powerful enough to mean a confrontation yet with what I was doing in Europe. And there was still possibility maybe of doing something that could help my position getting better, though I started to feel that obviously the evil side, the side that was really onto this demonic vision of the New World Order, was taking over. I got married later on and converted to the Muslim faith because during my time in Egypt I made a ritual under the pyramids, and I was obviously requiring in this ritual that I was sent a descendant of Prophet Muhammad, so I could accomplish what the Knights Templars were trying to accomplish for several hundred years, which was to link the bloodlines of the Knights Templars with the bloodline of Prophet Muhammad. Once this mission was accomplished within the Illuminati, the problem arose. What should we do next with Leo Zagami, who is now becoming involved at the higher level of the pyramid of the bloodlines? So they gave me the possibility of the higher office within the Monte Carlo structure. But also in June 2006, I was put in front of certain papers and in front of having to not only betray the family of my wife in what I was doing, but also in becoming ethically and morally involved in things which I didn't, ethically and morally I couldn't agree with what was going on at the highest levels. I saw too much corruption. I asked that those problems which already arose in 2003 with the American Illuminati could be correct, but unfortunately the person representing them, which was George Hugo Balestrieri, the director of the Rotary Club in New York, also responsible for the international division of the Rotary Club, was definitely a character which I couldn't agree with and was obviously working for the Antichrist. It was something they were proposing me that I couldn't really do. And so at that point I come out of this reality. For a few months, also because I had at that point my son getting born in July 2006, and I really wanted to come out of this Monte Carlo Lodge because I saw things that I wasn't agreeing with. After many years, I found that even among the group of people that I thought I could trust, there were people who were practicing certain things that I couldn't agree with how things were going, and I couldn't agree with their vision of 2012, which was to build a bunch of underground cities, underground bases, and all the rest, so they can hide the elite while the majority of people outside of these bases kill themselves or end up subject to some nuclear fallout or what else. So I couldn't agree with this negativity on the top, where there was people who were only caring about putting aside gold and diamonds and letting the whole system collapse because they don't see a future. They only want to try to save their own wealth in order to implement after the world order. When the whole collapse thing comes out of the equation, you have then the result, which is the New World Order. But the New World Order can be in the hands of only people who have the possibility. These people, obviously, if they hide and they build underground bases that can hide whole cities, have then the resources and the wealth, and come out of these cities and they rule the world. That's what they want to do once the whole collapse of the system starts. So, I mean, I couldn't agree really with all these catastrophes, and also without having to try something else that could really help out the people. I believe that later on, in September, October 2000, and I have already announced that after I left the Monte Carlo Lodge, that I will do something special between September and October 2006. And I started this small blog initially, putting all my documentation, photos, documents, and all the rest. And at that point, I started to create some very serious problems within the Illuminati establishment. So they decided to get me back in. In December 2006, the Norwegian police and a couple of social workers even came to my house on the 6th of December 2006 saying, if you don't give up your blog, we will basically take your children from you and, we will arrest you. And so, and this was done in front of my wife at the time, called Fatma Suso. She used to be a politician, and at that time I used to trust her. Later on, even herself, who was a trustworthy person, got corrupt because her own religious movement within the Muslim arena, which is called the Gulen movement, is working with the Jesuits, working heavily within the New World Order of Rockefeller Company, and so they put her in front of a decision, and she had to not only leave me, but they used her to start to move accusations against me of all kinds, and they took my son from me, the other child who was the previous son of my wife also. They were taken away from me in a very brutal manner. This whole thing happened. The New World Order definitely is implemented, and they're very strong when you rebel to them. But in December 2006, when the first strike, this happened in February 2008. So for 2 years I managed to resist. I managed to start a new website immediately after the first blog was closed down by the authorities. I started a new website in Italy. I started to work to see if it was possible to dialogue still with these people. In December 2006, I went to a P2 meeting with various people in Livorno, in the headquarters of the Christian Democrat Party. And there were various people from the Monte Carlo Lodge. It was a meeting in which they were trying to tell me to stop what I was doing with my exposure work, because the situation otherwise for me could get even worse. But they were scared. I could see they were scared. So I saw that on one side, yes, I had to fear this whole thing. And in fact, later on, they managed even to corrupt my wife, and they offering her work, offering her money to leave me, and they successfully managed to do that. Unfortunately, I'm a victim of a situation which I have lived on my own life. This is not something out of a book. This is something I have lived on my own life. And Mel, Carmine, who knows me for a while now, knows very well the suffering and the profound misery that I had to suffer after I come out of the order and I start to do this exposure work. Later on this year, I tried to get back into the Monte Carlo Lodge, having some people on my side to see if it was possible still this summer to save the situation by issuing a monetary reform, by issuing certain changes within the interreligious style, but unfortunately the enemy is too strong. People like the Carlyle group oppose me, and they managed with Ezio Giunchiglia, also old P2 treasurer, and Giorgio Baletteri, but also people within certain establishment which is still corrupt. And obviously, I can't really seem to change their ways. It's very difficult. They actually manage instead to create a lot of damages for me and for my life, because they want to ruin me economically, they want to ruin my private life, they arrest me, they have tortured me, and this has happened in front of the eyes of journalists in Norway who they themselves they were risking to get arrested when they saw. I went with a very dear friend of mine, a journalist, to the court on the end of July when I went there to Norway, and they arrested me, and it was a scene that the journalists started shouting they were fascists. They were even maybe arresting him if he didn't stop. He had to stop immediately because these people are complete Nazis in their ways. They, if they can and they want to scare you, they want to threaten you, they do it without no regards for any laws. They are the law. They use the military, they use the intelligence, they use the police. And the PST arrested me, the Norwegian military police, the intelligence, and they interrogated me. They threatened me with 15 years of jail if I didn't leave Norway. And why is Norway so important? Because Rockefeller and everybody of that group invested a lot of money in these underground bases that were first developed by the Germans and further on now developed by the usual suspects that can use them when the time comes. So Norway is very important because it has enormous underground bases, and they have also created in the north of Norway a base for all the seeds of all the planet in case they get, ruined in any way by pollution, radiations, and all the rest. They have in this island in Norway all the seeds of all the plants in the world that are capable after of growing again after they have purified the land and deactivated it from all the anomalies of the radiations and all the rest. If it comes to that kind of situation, they have already organized themselves so well that it's definitely time that the people who are listening to us start questioning their governments and say, what is happening? Can you please tell us the truth? And if you don't tell us the truth, well, it's time that the communities start to mobilize and start to prepare, because obviously if only a limited amount of number are considered the ones that have to have this privilege of going underground, well, it seems to me a great injustice for everybody that's staying overground, and it seems really that this new world order not only sucks, but is made out of people who have a vision which is completely negative, because hiding underground from what is going to happen in 2012 is not the solution. I tell you, it's not the solution.
Leo, that sounds horrible, absolutely horrible. And it sounds like a sci-fi, and yet those of us who have been involved with this kind of information for a long time, and we're getting more details from you. One last question before I turn this over to Sheila. What is protecting you from voicing this information, not having them try to permanently silence you?
Because I have been able in the last few months to at least regain control of some parts of the Illuminati that come on my side. Some people within the intelligence, within the military structure, the economic structure, that believe that I'm able to create a positive change in the future, and they believe in me. They trust that I can maybe be of help if the situation really is so dramatic. They still believe I can be of help. But obviously I have my enemies, and my enemies are growing, also because of the fact that I have a lot of problems with the Muslims these days. The Muslims accuse me of having left the faith, when in reality I always stayed a Christian. I was married with the descendant of Prophet Muhammad as a Knights Templar, and everybody within my family, and also the family of my soon-to-be ex-wife, knows that I am a Knights Templar by tradition. I'm part of a bloodline. That doesn't give them the possibility to kill them, because if they have to kill them, it has to be done by holy decree, and it has to be the Pope himself that can approve my death. Now, for the Pope himself to approve my death in this moment of time is something that he doesn't have the courage to do, because he knows that I'm an aristocrat who is rebelling to a series of injustice, and that I still, though, bring with me the bloodline of the people before me that are the kings of Scotland, that are the barons of Sicily. I have my own history, so I might get killed. That's possible, because unfortunately the situation is not easy for me security-wise. That's why I tend to live in a very discreet way these days, and not expose myself too much.
Wow. Okay, so obviously love is the thing that opened your eyes up to getting out, and also that's the thing that, got you, lost your love too. So that's a very sad story.
There is only one answer to this.
What?
And there is an answer that is very clear, very linear, and everybody will understand, is that I follow the way of Jesus. I don't follow the way of Satan. Full stop. That doesn't mean that I'm not an Illuminati anymore, or that I'm not a Freemason anymore. I still manage to stay within these establishments, because they know that within the Illuminati there is a structure which is known as the AA, the Angelo Angelorum, the Arcana Arcanorum, the Astro Argentinum, the three significance of AA, and that we are, in charge of very special work, and that we can be eliminated without creating an even further catastrophe within the establishment, because I myself have my own allies within the metaphysical kingdom, within that realm that you call the realm of the UFO, of the aliens and all that. So this is a confrontation. It's not something that is me hiding myself. No, it's a confrontation. At the end, we will see who stays and who doesn't. We will see.
Well, this is a
I follow the way of Jesus, and if you follow the way of Jesus, then you have the possibility of using the cross, and with that sign, I will always win. In hoc signo vinces. That's it.
Leo, I think at this time it was a perfect entree for Sheila's questions, because she wants to talk further about, the aliens and things like that. So allow me to introduce and let Sheila, ask her questions of you. And I think then if we have any time, if you still have any energy to stay up, then we could open it up for some other questions.
Sure.
Thank you, Jackie. But I think he's just about answered all the questions that I had when Mel had talked about that subject. So what we're going to do right now is, because of the time, I know you had just a certain amount of time that you could give us. I just wanted to spend the next few minutes to see if there's anyone out there. We still have quite a few people left on the call. I can't believe they've stayed on this long. But you are very interesting. You had a lot of great information to share with us. And I am so glad that we recorded this so we can listen to it over and over again. But what we're going to do right now is anyone out there, if you have a question for Leo, all you have to do is press *7, and then let us recognize your name, and then we'll announce your name, and then you can ask your question.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. Who are we speaking to?
Hi, this is Roxy. I had a question.
Okay, go ahead and ask your question.
The question is...
we can't hear you.
Hello?
Can you please speak louder?
Yes, the question is, do you think that the currency will be changed anytime soon?
The currency?
Do you think the currency will be changed anytime soon?
No, yeah, sure. No, I'm answering. The currency itself, when it's not of any value anymore in the hands of the person in the street, because the Federal Reserve crashes and the whole system is crashed with it, basically at that point you have to change the currency. The problem is what we're going to have after this. Is there the interlude between the digital currency? Probably yes. But as I said, the future will be the digital currency, and at that point there will be no currency on earth that can resist that kind of level of influence on a global scale. Digital currency will be of influence from any other currency in the world. So that's it. It will be the final solution of the New World Order. So I think that definitely the dollar has its time counted, and it's only for us to eventually defend the dollar and defend the institution that the dollar represents. But the institution is actually very visible on the $1 bill. That institution is the Illuminati themselves. So this war ultimately is war within the Illuminati, which is going to be fought between Illuminati. The rest of the planet is going to view the mirroring of the situation, the reflections of what is generated within that tiny number of people, the few that dominate the many.
Hello, Leo. This is Robert in Honolulu. Hello.
Yes, hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very clear.
Oh, bless your heart. Well, first of all, I want to thank you so much for the courage that you have in what you're doing and what you've been through, and they're going to pray for you. I'm sure everyone on this line is going to continue to pray for you. But I want to ask you, I wasn't quite clear on what you were saying about 2012. Is that something that's going to be used by the Illuminati or the forces of light of Jesus? And also, is Nasara true? Is anything going to happen from that?
Yes, what we have to make clear for everybody today is that there is Illuminati on the dark side, the ones you define as Illuminati, usually are the ones on the dark side of the Adam Weishaupt tradition, but the corrupt ones are obviously what I define as the dark side of the Illuminati. Then you have the light, the side of the people who are genuinely illuminated. I define also them as Illuminati. Why? Because they're genuinely illuminated by God. So you have a confrontation here, not amongst just the common folk fighting against the New World Order. Here you have confrontation also between secret societies, the ones that support the evil side, the ones that support the good side, and those orders that obviously are in confrontation with each other. We don't have to see ourselves as on our own fighting a struggle against an enormous beast that is impossible to touch in any way because they have all this control. There is confrontation in the upper level of the pyramid, and we only have to hope that sooner rather than later this confrontation is going to end up with the takeover of the light side, empowered by the possibility of the people of finally finding the reality of God and the ultimate reality of God with the science of God, the only solution for mankind, and the possibility of finally getting rid of these slave gods, of these tyrants that have been with us for centuries, that are just capitalizing on this war, this other war, putting this bank, this other bank. So at the end, you see, this confrontation obviously is resulting in a catastrophe.
Yes, Leo. Todd?
Yes.
So you see 2012 as being a catastrophe?
2012 is the beginning of a great change, which obviously has moments of catastrophe, moments of difficulty, big challenges which mankind has never seen before, wars, turmoils of all kinds, earthquakes. The wrath of God after 2012 and what will happen there back from 2012 onwards is the 7 days of tribulation that will be sanctioned upon mankind. Only at the end of those 7 years of tribulation will mankind be able to see the light. That's it.
And how
the
about
warriors of
Nasara?
light will come out after 2012 very strong. The warriors of light and days that we see in society are peaceful, are there to try to bring love and compassion, but the moment of confrontation is getting near. And at that moment of time, obviously, the hypocrisy of the establishment needs to be correct.
Leo, what about Nasara? Is there any truth to that?
Any truth to what, sorry?
Yes, hello?
Excuse me.
Hello. Hi.
Yes, hello?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Listen, I'm sorry. I have a two-part question. This is Todd. My two-part question is this. Religion is I think, as I can possibly see it here, is the Illuminati and all of the evil doing is their biggest ally. Is Jesus in charge or is Jesus not in charge?
Hello?
Jesus will be in charge of the kingdom of God. If this new world order if this new world order becomes the kingdom of God, then it will be Jesus who will be in charge. If this new world order becomes the reign of the Antichrist, obviously the Antichrist will be in charge.
And anybody hear me?
Can you hear me?
Everybody
Yeah, we can hear you. Keep talking.
Yes. Okay. So as I said, the confrontation is the confrontation between the two forces, the forces of light and the forces of evil, of darkness. So it's a big moment after 5,920 years, after a whole period of 2,160 years, after the end of an era, we have the possibility of a new aeon, but obviously we have also the possibility that in those 7 years, a lot of people, including our families, including ourselves even, will be facing death or will be facing terrible tribulations. So it's just a matter of getting ready for those tribulations ahead, prepare, pray, be aware, and be ready to organize yourself in a different way from how you do in your ordinary life without the knowledge of what I'm telling you. Because I'm giving you just a full picture, so you can then make yourself your mind up. It's the only possibility I have, is just to give you the full picture. The possibility that I have is to give you the full picture given to me by the fact that they haven't killed me yet. But who knows? Maybe they will. At the moment, they themselves know that I have challenged the system so much in the last 2 years that will never stop. I mean, after that, you cannot stop. But we know very well what happened 2,000 years ago to another guy who challenged the system. He ended up on a cross. Now, I'm not somebody who wants to end up in any cross. I want to just challenge that pharaonic magic which is residing in the seat of power, which I personally myself know very well to exist because I'm myself a 33 degree, a member of a Supreme Council. I know exactly what they're working with. We have to then understand certain things. We have to understand the roots of esoteric Christianity. We have to understand better occult Freemasonry, which is not regular, normal Freemason you hear in the Blue Lodge, in the lower levels, but the higher levels of Freemasonry, the initiations that go to the Hermetic tradition, to those Hermetic initiatic schools that are for a long time, are all getting ready for 2012. We have to study the six symbols of the Rosicrucians, the esoteric, as I said, Christianity is also very important, the secret tradition of ancient Egypt, the Christian gnosis, the philosophy of all religions needs to be studied, because if we want to confront the enemy, you have to know the enemy. You cannot just criticize the enemy, be on the outside, because it will crush you. The only way Moses fronted the enemy was because Moses knew very well the art of the pharaohs, the art of black magic, and so only in that way he could then front his enemy and defeat his enemy. And this was done with the power of God through him in a moment of our history, which is obviously very important for mankind. So I believe that through the knowledge of the primitive man, of his knowledge of mystery schools that go from back in the time of Atlantis and even prior to that, that we can be able to understand what has happened before and then be able to finally realize where we are now and where we want to go. because if we want to discover these truths, we also have to learn how we can actually implement an alternative. Now, if the only alternative is to criticize the NWO the way that some people like Alex Jones do, it's very limited, really, because going in front of the Bilderberg meeting with the big, with a microphone, they're shouting, or challenging the establishment only in a theoretical aspect, it's not enough. You have to study the whole secrets of the Illuminati and go and challenge them in the science that they're better at. And what is the science of the Illuminati? The science of the Illuminati since thousands and thousands and thousands of years is the science of the mages, the science that is based on this occult knowledge that finally, after 2012, will be revealed to mankind, but at what cost? At the cost of destabilizing the whole system. Because what will happen next is obviously the crash of this present civilization that is only ruled by these few people that have secret knowledge firmly in their hands. At the moment in which you want to make this knowledge, the knowledge that is taught in your schools, in your universities, that is the common knowledge, well, then things have to change very much. And things will change very much. So it is like the symbology of the 33 degree, which at the 33 degree level, you have done the whole ramic scale. You have ascended to the whole level of the Illuminati through all the sciences of Illuminati, the divination, magic, the Hermetism, the mysteries of the Kabbah, and all the rest, to arrive to a knowledge which is superior. But then if you use that knowledge for the positive, and you help your fellow citizen, your fellow, your country, the person next to you in your community, then that is a positive knowledge. Then we go back to say, wow, he's a 33rd degree, and he's a man of great honor, and we respect him very much, because with his science he's able to help the people. If that 33rd degree instead is a person that is working for the corporates, for the people on top of him, those Illuminati elite groups that want to implement the New World Order without any conscience and leaving everything in the hands of a machine that is working for a dictator, well, in that case, you see, not all 33 degrees are on the same ship. There is people like me who are, and they're growing actually within the Illuminati establishment. I'm not the only one. I'm contacted more and more every day by people in the Illuminati establishment who want to finally come on the good side. But still, it takes a lot of time, and we are still a minority, because the majority has in their hands still the whole economical establishment. And it's very difficult to make a revolution when you don't have the cash to make revolution, because all the revolutions have been made with secret and occult finances coming in. If you don't have those finances, then it's very, very difficult to do a revolution. And so we are trying here with my group at least to do a revolution of knowledge through my website, leozagami.com, and through everything that we do within my movement. We try to bring awareness to people. And we try to see if it's possible to organize a group which is strong enough to one day get inside the United Nations, get in those places where really they should be saying to the truth and say, we want to have a complete investigation and report upon these secret societies, and we want these secrets disclosed to the public, because they have to become common science, and we all want to live in an illuminated way. We don't want to live in the obscurity. We don't want to be anymore. We want to know the truth. Now, if we want to all know the truth, then we have to study certain topics, and we have to realize the truth behind it is obviously very delicate matter, because we're talking here about science which makes you deal with entities from other realms, which puts in contact with the metaphysical kingdom, with something that is obviously at the moment only in the hands of those intelligence services that obviously have invested billions and that continue to use these also programs of mind control, which are completely activated by those beings and those entities who obviously work with those mind controllers who are implementing these psyops that every day, psychological operations that every day brainwash us and make us victim of the situation. So we have to become aware.
Leo,
we have to become aware, and that is mainly because if we become aware, we can finally become a challenge to the system. And maybe one day we can reclaim the system for ourselves, and we can use the positiveness of this system, not only the control side of the whole thing, and be victims of this control and losing all our privacy and losing basically all our freedom. We have to have new rules for a new world with a new technology. Definitely the rules that are implemented at the moment are outdated. And people who are doing that, they are deliberately doing this whole thing in this way so they can keep on materializing great cash for their own businesses, control their own governments, and run these religions, which basically are just a system of mind control for the masses.
Leo, I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, my question is this: do you think?
Hello.
Do you think that?
Hello.
That the United
Hello?
States will?
Ma'am,
will
there's
finally,
already someone
get rid
talking.
of,
Can you just
George
wait a few
W.
minutes,
Bush?
please?
Sorry, can you repeat the question because somebody was talking over you?
Do you think that justice will be bought, justice will be served to the American people? What will happen to George W. Bush?
You see, America was founded with the blessing of ascended masters, like Count Saint-Germain, who is behind the foundations of the United States of America. Through people after like, Benjamin Franklin, George Washington. These people had knowledge. They were initiated in the mystery schools. The Illuminati at that time were obviously there. They did their own job, but America was created for a purpose. So everybody knew their position and also knew very well their trade, their skills. They were very good at working out this alchemy that created the United States of America. We hope that the United States of America recognizes this and finally becomes a beacon of light for the rest of the civilized world to be able to bring this science and free mankind from ignorance, because basically we have to free mankind from ignorance and superstition, and we have to only implement the science which will help us going through these great problems we have ahead. So we have to become definitely more objective, and we have to realize that these revelations that will definitely change the course of humanity in the next few years will mean that we have also a possibility of not only surviving in the future, but of creating really this dream on earth, which is the kingdom of God, and this possibility for us and for our children to live in a very different world without all the threats of the world we have in front of us nowadays. This world in front of us nowadays is not a world we want to leave to our children. This world that is nowadays, that we have nowadays, is corrupt by greed. This world that we have nowadays is corrupt by pornography. This world that we have nowadays is corrupt. Full stop. It can't go on because the wrath of God will wipe everything out of the map, and you can hide wherever you want. You can dig your bunkers as deep as you want. You're still not going to be able to survive. So you have to just repent and finally put yourself with your mind and say, okay, I want to work for the right side. I want to really help humanity. I can't be an hypocrite that gives charity on one side and on the other kills 900 million people, It's not possible to donate $900 million and kill 900 million people for those $900 million. If this kind of charity means that people are trying to buy themselves a place in paradise, well, I'm sorry to say, when you die and you go up there, St. Peter will not even open you the door and not even receive you to say, go down to hell. So that's it. If you continue following these people who are false prophets, who are corrupt politicians, full of greed, who are preaching for good, compassion, love on the outside, for change, for this and that, but after, in the end, they are acted like everybody else, well, this is only hypocrisy. You see, hypocrisy, my friends, is the biggest enemy that we have nowadays. Because in the age of the social network, in the age of Facebook, where everybody likes to give an apparition, a face, this is not reality. It's a face you are giving in the outside. But what is the reality of who are you really in the inside? And if we don't change that, and if everything becomes only a face that you can put on the internet, a clever face, well, that is not really going to save the day when things get worse. So I hope that really Obama is a man of consistency, that soon, rather than later, he wakes up and he decides to do a revolutionary choice, which is not only to leave the influence of the elite Illuminati, but to set up a new standard and force those people to come down and deal with us and be able finally to live in a world which is not completely manipulated, orchestrated by people who have absolutely no interest in the future of our children and are sending this whole planet to hell only to make more money and to keep on building more bunkers, more villas, more everything, and to buy weapons because they think that by buying lots of weapons in the year 2012 they have a great future. Probably some of them will be better structured if you have more weapons. I mean, in the moment of turmoil, having weapons is always a good choice. But still, we are talking about a very desperate situation coming up, and we need to have really an understanding of all the aspects of this whole pyramid, from the higher aspect, the higher level, to the lower level. And if we don't get this pyramid to really work and start working together again for humanity, and if these people on top keep on being corrupted, well, it's very difficult that we can find a solution that is not the reign of the Antichrist. And a reign of the Antichrist is doomed already from the start. So we know what will happen there. It's not gonna, it's not gonna be able to resist the wrath of God. So, well, welcome, do it. What can I do? I mean, I am a minority these days within the Illuminati establishment. I am a person pushing for spiritual realization, for the use of love and not war, for a possibility of bringing knowledge and not ignorance and pornography to the people, but to actually bring them the awareness of certain things, so at least they wake up. No, people like me are ostracized, while instead other people who bring, false words of comfort and hypocrisy, going like evangelists do in the USA, preaching the Bible when they themselves are complete Satanists in the hands of the Illuminati elite, well, it seems like a very hypocritical moment and a very sad moment for humanity.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sure. We're going to take two more questions, folks. It's 4 o'clock, 10 minutes past 4 o'clock in Rome, and I'm sure Leo's must be getting a little tired.
Absolutely. I hope
Can I ask a question?
In 10 minutes I will. Yeah, sure.
We'll take 2 more questions, please.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Sure.
Hello?
Yes. Hello, please. Please make your question.
Okay. I wanted to ask this. You touch on a number of areas, obviously time permitting. Time doesn't allow. But I'm given the high level of your understanding. Are you conversant or are you fully aware of the decree of Lord Sharia, which is now being put through by Count Saint Germain and the other ascended masters, being spearheaded, if you like, by Archangel Lord Michael, which is to return planet Earth to join the Galactic Federation of Light, of which the Ankara who defected and joined in 1988. Can you comment on that?
Well, this is also connected, obviously, to the portal of Mount Shasta.
That's
the
right.
Possibility of, as we know, the communication with the Ascended Master Saint Germain has always been very important, as we know. You know also that from the same school of thought, we have also the possibility of understanding probably the higher level of the spiritual change which is in motion. Unfortunately, I have to say to you, my brother, who are out there listening, majority of people who are now probably on this conference call will understand very little of the name that you have mentioned and about what Galactic Federation is. Because I think that people are not prepared to understand how not only is complex this subject, but it's a subject that you have to take with a certain degree of respect, because we are talking here about some very high spiritual energies at work. We're talking about the work of an ascended master like Saint Germain, who went through centuries, always working behind the scenes in the Illuminati, trying to bring humanity to a positive kingdom of God. We have to remember Saint Germain was and still is one of the probably key roles in the Council of 12. More important than him, obviously, is number 13. We know that number to be the number of the Messiah, and so of the Christos returning. But then we have below him other illuminated and masters, and we have had the fact that Saint Germain, as a disciple, had the Count of Cagliostro, who created the Egyptian rite and who influenced also the birth of the Egyptian rites of Memphis and Mizraim. Mizraim that includes also the Arcana Arcanorum, so the very, very secretive study and practices which are conducted within the realms of sexual magic for the creation of a magical child and all the rest. Because the subject obviously is so specific and we are obviously going short on time, I want to tell you that people will start to get more aware of these realities, and obviously the portal of Mount Shasta is an important one in California, which I would recommend the people who are listening to go and visit one day so they can witness themselves. And in that area we have also a Druid altar, and we have a very important Druid altar, and we have also places where obviously rituals occur at a regularly and are done by people within the Illuminati establishment who are trying to work with the Great White Brotherhood in the positive side, in the side that is working for universal knowledge and trying to bring forward really these energies to heal the planet, because we are talking about energies that have to heal the planet. The planet is in need of these energies. But obviously there is also a lot of false gurus and a lot of people in the New Age establishment who have let's say, an idea that is easy to communicate with Saint Germain, or to communicate with Archangel Michael, or with any of these beings. I want to warn these people not to be in this illusion. You can only strive to communicate at that kind of level and to have a communication with ascended master, angels, or entities of this kind if you are trained, if you are obviously have this kind of knowledge. Otherwise, you will end up communicating with demons that will portray themselves as angels, or you will end up talking with a demon that portray himself as Saint Germain. I mean, to actually be able to be a genuine speaker for these messengers of light, definitely you have to be completely pure spiritually, and unfortunately these days is very, very difficult, though there is obviously some exceptions. And I hope that the New Age movement that was originally created because of the New Age magazine, which was part of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, the ancient settler Scottish Rite established this publication called New Age. Then the New Age became a movement, it became a way of being. Unfortunately, manipulated mostly by the intelligence services for various reasons, so they could actually use this New Age movement to implement the Luciferian side of things, more close to their Illuminati and dark views. At times, the Illuminati were brought to deal with Lucifer, and sometimes they fall completely under his control. But what the Gnostic tradition says is that even Lucifer, in the end of times, is working with God. So even he has a function in this end of times scenario. But remember, my friends out there, that it's not possible for ordinary men to communicate with either ascended masters or beings of any kind, if not by chance. And if you have a chance like this, it might be also very dangerous. So you have to be ready. You have to prepare yourself. And some people do it. That's why retreats of spiritual nature help people getting purified so they can eventually get in contact and make divination and be able to reawaken themselves. But fundamentally, we have to take care of our presence. We have to discipline our own presence, because we can go in search of God in a million outside mosques, churches, places of all kinds, but in the end, God can only be found in your heart. And you have to know yourself. Know yourself is not just a motto that is used like this by the Illuminati because they want to. This is a fundamental motto. It comes from the Oracle of Delphi. It is an ancient tradition. You have to really know yourself, and then at that point you can eventually help others and be able to lead the way. For this global awareness is not something that can be done by an ordinary being. It has to be God himself that gives the possibility to some people, some masters, to do their mission on Earth in this moment of time, to help then the majority of the population in this very difficult moment. Because, as I said, in 2012 we have to remember the ascended masters and the whole show, we are talking here about the whole show, is gathering, because it's the great gathering moment. It's the great gathering moment because we find ourselves in the center of the galaxy. The planet Earth finds itself at the center of the galaxy. So at that moment of time, it's not only a game played between forces of this planet. It's never been a game played only by the forces of this planet. It becomes the center of a galactic game, and it becomes definitely something very different when these forces start to manifest, obviously much more strongly, because in this specific time they are requested to do a very special gathering, and with some very incredible consequences for the rest of this galaxy. Not only this Earth, which finds itself at the center, but the rest of the galaxy. So we are finding ourselves in a very, very particular moment of time.
Great answer, Leo. We're going to take one very last question, and then we will wrap up this call.
Can I ask a question, please?
Sure.
Yeah. I read an article in a magazine called the Spectrum magazine, and on the front of the page, the magazine, it says the most powerful man in the world is Hans Vandenbuck. He's a Dutch priest, and he controls the Black Pope Jesuits. And it talks in this article about how they started all the wars. Everything going on in the world is controlled by the Black Pope Jesuits. They've been around since 1540. They own Boeing. They own the CIA. They run every country in the world. And is there any truth to that? But he talks about how they killed Kennedy, Princess Diana. It's all.
Sure. I would like to give an answer. Okay, the Jesuits. I have denounced them in the past in my interview. There's a whole series that I hope you can go check out yourself at arcticbeacon.com with Greg Zismarski, which we have done together, a series of interviews in which we kind of unleash all the details together with other researchers, also like John Phelps. And I have done also work with him, always on the subject specific of the Jesuit order. The Jesuit order is a specific order within the Catholic Church which has an enormous influence. These days the general of the Jesuits is Adolf Nicholas, and he is the Black Pope. He is himself in charge of the esoteric, the magical side of things, or the Vatican itself. So you can imagine these people having control of the Vatican library and all the archives, and you can imagine the immense amount of power they have. On top of that, the Jesuits have been used in the last few hundred years since their establishment by Ignatius Loyola to influence all the forms of secret society, establishments of all kinds. They influence parts of Freemasonry where they actually stand there with certain grandmaster and really dictate behind the scenes the whole. They also deal directly with the Muslims from the Gul movement, which are the most powerful because they control secretly the Council 40 of the Muslim Illuminati, which is in the hands officially of Sheikh Nazim of the Naqshbandi, but he is actually controlled by Fethullah Gulen, who himself wrote a book talking about the New World Order with a preface written by Thomas Michel, who is the secretary for the interreligious affairs of the Jesuits. I have denounced the Jesuits in the past because they are double-faced people who are totally involved in this New World Order at the highest level, just as the Zionists, and they have been hand in hand in the past working together with people like Father Malachi. And I can only say that in 2012, the Jesuits are organizing the biggest event in the United States, where they have an important conference that will decide the future of the order, and basically they themselves have positioned this important event in 2012 because of obviously they themselves know very well that this is not only anymore a terrestrial game. So the Jesuits, in front of what is going to happen, though they are very powerful allies because they deal directly with certain entities, jinns, demons, what you call aliens. They have a base in Arizona, I think in Mount Graham, it's very known. I mean, they deal there with one of the most powerful entities. They control all the astronomical laboratories. They have filtered the video of Planet X, which went through an Italian researcher into the global conspiracy movement because obviously they have interest also to push a certain amount of disinformation. Zacharias Sitchin, which is the one in charge of spreading the new myth and talking about the Anunnaki and influencing heavily the thought of David Icke. He himself is connected with the Jesuits and with the Vatican, and was received by the Pope, and was also a good friend of Monsignor Padre Balducci, the chief exorcist of the Vatican, who just died recently, who was in charge also of the UFO phenomena, and he was the one who started to talk officially about UFOs and about secretum, about all the secrets of the Vatican surrounding the UFOs that apparently they had already been in contact with and worked with, because the Jesuits had this capacity because of their esoteric knowledge. I mean, the Jesuits are the ones who really are in charge of the magic. When you see The Exorcist, the film The Exorcist, a person who goes there and exorcises what is impersonated by the actress Linda Blair, he is basically is white. It represents really the esoteric side of the Vatican. So the Jesuits are very dangerous, absolutely very dangerous, and at the moment they are working on a plan which is to secretly submit to the Muslims and to convert part of the Vatican to the Muslims. In fact, already 40 cardinals in the Vatican have been converted to Muslim faith. And basically they want to use the Muslim religion as the ultimate mind control religion to control the masses after 2012. So basically they want to use this religion to really implement the control of the masses spiritually also, not only physically like they can do with obviously the various techniques we have mentioned within the establishment of the New World Order. But because the New World Order is also about controlling the minds, the spirits of all the people, then obviously the religion of Islam is being chosen because it functions very well, on the contrary of the Christian faith that, especially in the Catholic countries like Italy, is hardly practiced. The Islamic religion functions very well, and we see the results. I mean, they're able to brainwash a group of terrorists and launch them on whatever mission they want, because they are very easy to brainwash if you know how to manipulate the Quran, which obviously is also a holy book. It can also be a revelation of God. But anything in the hands of these Illuminati criminals, of these minds who want to really control the whole globe, is obviously it's corrupt, and Jewish element, the Zionist element, is also a very heavy element. But these elements were in charge also 2,000 years ago. And 2,000 years ago, at the time of Jesus, who was in charge? The Roman Empire, which raises the Vatican, in charge of the whole show, of the Knights of Malta and all the rest. So basically it guides all the forces of intelligence in the United States, and the Jesuits control Georgetown University, so they control the intelligentsia of the politicians of the United States through universities like Georgetown. I mean, this is a control made on a global scale, which is connected with religions at a very it's really, when we go and analyze it, it's really disgusting to see how the mankind is able to use religion and to basically use maybe what was positive in those books, and to completely manipulate it to make it a way to just enslave the masses to their will, because it functions in their establishment. They don't want people to wake up and discover the real science of God, which obviously would be of benefit for everybody, for the Muslim, for the Christian, for the Jew, for the Sikh, for any kind of religion. They simply want those religious leaders to stay in their places. They know that if the science of God is established and if the truth comes out about all those messengers of light that came, but also all the secret societies that were there to protect them, to all those families who were involved, all those bloodlines, if this truth completely comes out of the closet, then it's the fall of an establishment. So they are trying desperately to keep that secret to ultimately be exposed in the fullest, and so they only give little bits of it here and there. And obviously to make the whole puzzle up is nearly impossible. So the Internet, yes, has maybe the truths in different places, but then you have to put the whole puzzle together, and it becomes very difficult. So I always suggest go on www.leozagami.com and make your mind up if you want to join the movement for a second American Revolution, which is based upon ideas which were of our fathers, of the fathers of our fathers. We want to make of America the leading nation for the world, but we have to first of all become again America under the control of Americans. If America is under the control of foreign investors and Illuminati families that just manipulate the whole thing, then America is not an independent nation. It's still under this Illuminati establishment. Establishment after is controlled by the usual Queen of England, the usual Pope, and the usual figures who happen to be there for the last few hundred years, and they seem to always rule the scene. So, I mean, it's up to us to really revolutionize the whole thing and realize that we are being manipulated for too long, you know. So we want to really know the truth, and we want this truth to be taught to everybody in schools, in the universities, so then you can be a free man living consciously in the cosmic reality, which is expecting you up to 2012. And I'm sure that we will be able to reach that reality, but it's not a new age dream where one day in 2012 we always think in this new age movement that everybody's going to wake up with great awareness and great consciousness and finally, woo, everything is sorted out. No. That is the beginning. And it's a struggle that, as I said, will be lived on the sufferings of millions and millions and millions of people. And we don't have to hide this to our children. It will be very difficult times. So we have to prepare them. I think that tonight we have said probably much more than in any other interview I have ever been at least in the last few months, because I think really that now that all these things have happened also in the economy at an international level, finally people are starting to realize that obviously their life is getting affected. It's not anymore just a conspiracy they see on the internet. It's affecting their own pockets. It's affecting their own lives. They have to make certain choices at the end of the day. What should we buy? What should we put in the fridge today? Because we are not sure we can arrive to the end of the month. Well, this is something, obviously, that 20, 30, 40 years ago was unimaginable. So now it's time to really wake up. It's not anymore, just something we can continue to ignore. Otherwise, it will end up enslaved by the system, and then that system could well say to us, there is no bread, that's it, you live on a substitute or whatever. And you will have to accept that your standard of life is slowly decreasing, and at the end we will live much worse than our fathers and the fathers of our fathers, because instead of eating a carrot, a banana, an apple, a potato, a chicken, we will be eating substitutes created by big corporates, plastic, food that is literally garbage. And this is happening because we let these people rule the world. So wake up.
Thank you.
I think that was very well said, and I think that's going to be the theme for tonight. Is wake up. Wake up, America. Wake up the world, because I'll tell you, this was probably one of the most interesting calls you've done, Leo, and I've listened to every one of your interviews at least 3 or 4 times each. I really appreciate you coming on with us. I really hope that we can create a following through the people that we've got here today. This is actually one of the biggest calls we've done in quite some time. And I'll tell you what, if any of you would like to be on my mailing list, or some of you already are, my email address is very simple. It's Nuccio, N as in Nancy, UCHO 82 at Comcast.net. Nuccio82 at Comcast.net. And the important thing is not just me sending out an email to a couple of hundred people to get them on the call. The important thing is that those couple of hundred people that come on the call are also inviting 10, 15, 20 people each. We want to get to the point where there's enough people coming onto the call where it's impossible for people to get onto the call. That's the kind of problems we want to have in order to get the message out. But I think it's absolutely crucial at this point. Like you said, Leo, it's time to wake up. Leo, grazie, un'intervista proprio fantastico. Ci vediamo presto.
A presto, bye bye, God bless America. And
ciao.
Bye.